kiss me on my hot mouth. I'm feeling romantic.
This is the Marine Frigate. It's meant to take the place of Homeworld 1's salvage corvette and fill the unit capturing niche within Homeworld 2. It is vastly inferior to the salvage corvette in this role for multiple reasons, foremost of which being its method of capture. Unlike the salvager, which latches onto the target ship and drags it back to the mothership to commit unsavory acts upon the crew before replacing it with their own, the Marine Frigate latches on and pumps the target ship full of men with guns to perform the unsavory acts right on site. This comes with the benefit of being able to use her catches immediately instead of having to wait until they get to the mothership and back. But enemy ships take time to fill up with angry men, and all that time, your frigate is sitting motionless, begging to be shot full of holes by the rest of the enemy fleet, or even the target ship itself, since Marine frigates don't even disable its weapons while capturing until the bar fills up about halfway, so even against undefended targets they aren't safe. Sure, it's got more armor than the salvage corvette and doesn't die of being looked at funny by an assault frigate, but that hardly matters when said assault frigate is a non-moving target and all the time in the world to kill it. Besides, with how psychotic this game's level scaling can get, the endless, all-consuming hordes of Vaygr are never in short supply of anti-frigate weaponry. Today we will see for ourselves just how inferior the Marine Frigate is by attempting to beat Homeworld 2's campaign without building any other capital ships. Just a frigate, a complement of strikecraft to hard carry it when it inevitably fails, and a prayer. Some of you might think that I'm defeating the whole purpose of this demonstration by allowing the use of strikecraft, but those of you who've played the game can attest that calling the difficulty scaling psychotic is an understatement. Also, Marine frigates aren't available from the start of the campaign, so I'm kinda soft-talked otherwise. So, does the Marine Frigate have any redeeming qualities, or is it doomed to go the way of the junkyard dog? The time to find out is now. This is McGuffin number 1, the first of 5 that we need to find in One Piece and become king of the pirates, being loaded into our new mothership, which is weirdly devoid of weapons despite being the flagship of our navy, but whatever. It contains all the construction facilities we need to build our fleet, only the Higarans have made some changes to their ship design. Construction vessels can only build one ship at a time instead of 2. The second production slot is instead reserved for these new modules, which are now required for ship production, research, sensor enhancement, and other shit, and it can be destroyed by enemy fire. The resources will be filling the fleet repair niche left behind by the now extinct support frigate once they're upgraded later on, but for now they're here to keep our war machine up and running by scraping useful material from nearby asteroids and depositing it into the mothership. Interceptors come armed with anti-fighter guns, a pair of engines, and not much else. As with all strikecraft in this game, they're built in groups and come in formation by default, but you can change that formation with the help of these buttons down here and to allow them to adapt to different tactical situations and maintain an edge in combat. On top of that, you can set them to aggressive stance to boost their attack power, evasive to prioritize speed, or neutral to strike a balance. Without a reliable means to capture enemy picket ships, these ships will be one of 2 tools in our arsenal that can reliably fend off swarms of Vaygr strikecraft. Speaking of which...
Attention Tanis Control. This is Perimeter Station Chimera. We have multiple unidentified units detected. Signal indicates Vaygr bomber strike force.
Good morning, England!
Oi love, you posh dickhead, have gone my back. Give me see in it, she's told bloke grabs a bottle on the fishing ship, bloody off.
The Vaygr are everything that the Tyrannic Raiders wish they were, which is really bad for us because these fuckers multiply like bacteria and a pile of shit and are out for our blood, and they're gonna throw everything they have at us to get it. Recently, they've all been united under the banner of this one dude who found McGuffin number 2 chilling out in an ice field somewhere. I think his name was Pecan or something. He has his eyes set on the One Piece as well and has launched an all-out attack on our house to get it, so let's get out of here before they shank us to death, yes? And take a moment to familiarize yourself with the fighters by having them kill the incoming bombers. Then take a moment to familiarize yourself with the bombers by watching them chew through these hyperspace gates and frigates. You should have enough resources to build 4 squads of each before leaving.
The mothership is on its way. We're going to make it. Bishop 1 to all transports.
Get used to seeing these Vaygr carriers because they'll be showing up a lot from now on. They only have 1 production module slot, so they can only build 1 type of ship at a time. This one is geared toward pumping out fighters and bombers to attack the transports holding the rest of our crew. We could use our bombers to blow up its fighter facility and cut off the flow of reinforcements, while our fighters clean up the stragglers in detail. Use this time to build a corvette facility and get familiar with the gunship. Armed with 2 anti-fighter turrets and heavier armor than the Interceptor, they make for a good defensive option against fighter and bomber attacks.
The Vaygr are using frigates to attack the transports. Oh shit, I almost gave a fuck.
Here comes Captain Soban with a handful of Vaygr frigate designs. We do not need them. We will not use them. As a reward for saving all the transports, we're given these elite bombers and gunships to command, which deal more damage than normal ships of their class. They're not relevant to anything since they can't be replaced and will inevitably lose their lives in a meat grinder.
Captain Soban's mission will be to track down the location of the Vaygr leader.
Yeah, you have fun with that.
Children of Vaygr. I ate a big motherfucking sandwich made of eggs and bacon and lettuce and tomatoes and onions and peppers and salami and ham and cheese and mustard and mayo and ketchup and provolone and dirt and mud and clay and...
Keep a force behind at the mothership and send another over here to these asteroids. You'll see why in a second. Clean up these Vaygr pestering the shipyard and we'll get our first and only carrier of the run. A vital tool for keeping our fleet topped up and healthy. And unlike the Vaygr carrier, can have 3 production modules. As soon as the probes come, kill them with your scattered squadrons to give yourself more time to prepare for the incoming attack by familiarizing yourself with our lifeline, the Pulsar gunship. Armed with a downscaled ion cannon and a nasty attitude towards anything bigger than itself, these ships will round out our fleet's coverage by allowing us to quickly and efficiently destroy enemy corvettes, frigates, capital ships, just about everything above fighter class. It's an excellent tool for removing large masses of troublesome obstacles like frigate lines and clusters of defense platforms. The Vaygr raiders will start by assaulting your resourcing operations in the asteroids. Kill the carrier quickly, then bring your forces back to defend the shipyard from the second wave, packing fighters, bombers, and infiltrator frigates, the Vagr's own capture vessels. They need to die, of course, but they only pose a threat to the shipyard. The fighter swarms, on the other hand, will overwhelm you quick unless you destroy the middle carrier that's producing them. The presence of enemy capture vessels on the field will prompt us to start building our own, and testing them out on these scant few frigates here. It may be tempting to capture the enemy carriers in this mission, but the game doesn't let you build anything out of them, so they will just be big, easy-to-kill hangar bays with engines that sit around and provoke the wrath of the level scaling. Unlike the first game, the Vaygr fleet roster is not identical to ours. The differences in their ships' armaments are large enough to have a meaningful impact on gameplay. As a general rule, Vaygr vessels tend to be more specialized, better than Higaran ships at killing a designated quarry, but much worse at killing anything that isn't. Take for example the missile corvette, the Vaygr counterpart to the Higaran Pulsar gunship. Both are designed for killing frigates in mind, but unlike the Pulsars, which pack the aforementioned ion turrets, the missile corvette is armed with a pair of batteries to fire volleys of fast-tracking missiles that shred through corvettes faster than the Pulsar does, but are neither strong enough to deal meaningful damage to capital ships nor fast enough to catch fighters and bombers. Meanwhile, the Pulsar gunship's weapon is able to track and damage corvettes, frigates, and even supercapitals with gusto. It's exposition time with the Bentusi, the proud owners of McGuffin number 3. They're not interested in becoming the Pirate King, so they're playing Kingmaker by pointing us in the direction of McGuffin number 4, which will help us find and collect McGuffin number 5, which will help us unlock and use McGuffin number 6, which will take us to the location of the One Piece, where we can combine McGuffins 1, 2, and 3 to activate the One Piece and become the Pirate King. Got it? Good. Our task here is to destroy the Vaygr border security protecting their dig site in the ominous biblical reference asteroid field, starting with these hyperspace inhibitors. From this mission onwards, enemy capital ships will begin showing up in large numbers, and with them, opportunities to expand our fleet at Pecan's expense with our marine frigates. But the Vaygr aren't careless like the Titan were. They will target the frigates with everything they have right away, so if you don't handle them correctly, they'll be nothing more than speed bumps for the enemy. Luckily for you, I've drafted this official-unofficial guide to properly using the marine frigates based on my own experiences and experiments with the ship, to help you make the most of your poor financial decisions and freeload off the backs of hard-working shipyards the galaxy over. We ain't playing with salvage corvettes anymore. We can't just hoover up entire fleets worth of enemy capital ships like a fat boy to Golden Corral. We'll need to pay close attention to what capital ships the enemy is sporting and, more importantly, which types of capital ships we need, because unlike the first game, we can't go over to Unicap with captured ships. Scope out the enemy's assets to the best of your ability to find out where they are and how much backup they're sporting to determine the best target for your frigates. Also take care with how many targets you select, because if one of your marine frigates happens to be destroyed and you don't have any others on standby to fill in, then its target will be free to move in to destroy the others. Send in your other ships to engage the target and its escorts and destroy enough of them for your marine frigates to survive the operation. Prioritize anything that has anti-capital ship weaponry, such as bombers, laser corvettes, and heavy missile frigates. Once all of those are gone, and the rest are whittled down to sufficiently low levels that they can't kill your marines in time, then move your frigates in. Ideally, they should come in from the back or sides to minimize the amount of fire they take from the target itself. The more damage the target is, the less time it will take for the capture bar to fill up. So bring the target's health down a little bit to expedite the process, but not so much that your new addition gets immediately shit-stomped by the enemy. Just because you've eliminated all the enemies surrounding the target doesn't mean that more aren't coming. Keep your forces nearby to fend off enemy reinforcements until the capture process is complete. If your target has too many escorts, or there are more reinforcements coming and your fleet could deal with, then just run the fuck away. You're already effectively wasting your resources on these hunks of scrap instead of on something more reliable, so the last thing you need is to waste even more by having to replace them. So, next time you catch sight of someone else's property and feel an uncontrollable urge to steal it, just remember, simps. The Vaygr shipyard. Carriers but bigger and harder to destroy, and with the means to build destroyers and battle cruisers. They serve as an important source of reinforcements for us by spitting out ships for us to capture one at a time. Convenient. Besides the Infiltrator, the Vaygr have only 2 frigate types for us to select from. Their Assault Frigate is a picket ship designed to swat fires with its flechette turrets. Not particularly dangerous on their own, but they become a problem for our strike craft when the enemy sends them in groups, which they almost always do. Not a bad target per se, but their niche is already covered by our fighters and gunships, and those aren't prone to running into battle and getting shit-canned by the anti-capital workhorse of the Vaygr Armada, armed with a battery of homing missiles that make short work of frigates and pose a serious threat to supercapitals in large enough groups. The long range of their missiles gives them an easier time staying out of harm's way, drastically improving their survivability, and their missiles reacquire targets if the current one dies, so none of their firepower goes to waste. An excellent tool to have when your frigates are precious and hard to replenish. Getting a sense of deja vu for some reason. So the gimmick of this map is simple. The Vaygr garrison is a pissed off homeowner with a shotgun, and you're the rat hiding in their walls. Keep your fleet inside these dust clouds unless you want the entire enemy fleet on your ass at once. The enemy fleet is spread out across these 3 locations on the map that you can ambush and defeat in detail. Once you do that, advance to the primary dig site, clear out the final few ships, farm the shipyard and carrier for more frigates if you deem it necessary, and send a marine frigate in to claim McGuffin number 4. Thanks to all those generous donations from the Vaygr, we now have some frigates to work with. They'll serve as an acceptable centerpiece for our fleet, at least until bigger and better ships are available.
Tunnel of Doom.
One of the few missions that's exempt from the level scaling insanity, because there aren't any Vaygr here to harass us. The first of many toys that the rich kid progenitors couldn't be bothered to clean up, so now there are a problem. Supposedly these things were utility vessels once upon a time, but now the only job they're performing is turning my corvettes into molten scrap with their plasma cannons. They won't stop emerging from these clown car derelicts until the Oracle finishes having its way with Karen, so let's get to work chipping away at their frustratingly heavy armor. Your production ships and frigates should be safe from the movers as long as you keep making strike craft for them to chew on. About halfway through the mission, a wreck will appear that you can retrieve with a resourcer to unlock a research option that trivializes the rest of this fight. The way forward is being blocked by these nuclear fart clouds coming from these derelicts. If we try to bring our forces close, they'll quickly corrode and kick the bucket, so we'll have to get creative. And by get creative, I mean build our own reverse-engineered movers and have them clean it up for us. The Vaygr, taking objection to my efforts to practice sanitation, attempt to intervene, and this time they're back into destroyers. Armed with 4 heavy missile launchers and a pair of heavy gun turrets, they're a primary source of strife for us, and a primary target for our marine frigates. Luckily, our movers happen to make for excellent attention magnets. Their plasma guns make them decent bombers at a pinch, and the Vaygr seem to be fixated on destroying them over everything else, so they'll make this repo operation much easier. The Vaygr, themselves hailing from the British Isles, were born and raised in this sort of filth and are naturally immune to the fart clouds, which means that we'll have to play defensively until our movers can do their work. Build some defense platforms, hunker down, and wait them out. They'll eventually run out of resources and the attacks will abate. This is one of the few cases in a challenge run where the challenge conditions actually work to our advantage. The prohibition on capital ships is keeping our headcount low and preventing the level scaling from going truly nuts. Were it not for that, we'd be contending with several destroyers here instead of just one. No Vaygr means we're going to be playing with more of the Progenitor's leftover toys, but if their utility vessels are able to be such a pain in the ass for us, then what are their actual warships like?
We are translating the Progenitor language. It is a repeating message as follows.
My name is Jamar. I come from afar.
Say hello to Jamar. Jamar is an actual warship tasked with protecting McGuffin number 5 from wannabe pirate kings like us. Jamar is indestructible by conventional means and uses the holy light of Allah to send capital ships directly to hell. Jamar cannot be captured or reasoned with. Jamar knows no age, no despair, and no mercy, and absolutely will not stop, ever, until my entire fleet is dead. Jamar is a very shy individual and will get flustered and retreat into hyperspace when he receives too much attention. We can exploit this by showering him with gifts of fusion missiles until the embarrassment becomes too much for him. When Jamar isn't busy proselytizing us, he's busy vomiting his pet drones out to play with us. These drones are also armed with plasma cannons and will shit-can your corvettes and frigates if you don't swat them in a timely manner. They're weak to anti-corvette stuff, so have your pulsars deal with them while your movers go and fetch McGuffin number 5. We now control McGuffin number 5. But Jamar insists on keeping us here so he can continue to fumble the social encounter, so let's put him in a jar to shut him up. Fetch the jar's batteries with your movers while your pulsars keep Jamar's drones away. Jamar will then stumble into the jar once it's powered up, and we will be able to leave. Now that we have McGuffin number 5, let's give it a test drive and see what kind of heat it's packing.
Engineering crew Echo 4 report partial control has been established. Stand by for update. Phased cannon array online. Fleet Command, this is Dreadnought Control. Cannon array offline. Repeat, cannon array offline.
And this is why every McGuffin comes with an instruction manual nowadays. After we try and almost succeed to jump the Vaygr, we need to fix up the McGuffin and prepare for the Vaygr counter-jumping us, which starts with a quartet of hyperspace gates around the mothership. Our resources can only give the McGuffin's engines a quick spit shine, but that's okay because the shipyard from several missions ago is here to fix it. In 15 minutes. 3 more carriers drop in to surround us, and one of them has a frigate facility. You know what that means. If you try to capture more ships than your unit cap will allow, the target will be abandoned and left inert until someone puts it down. Keep your gunships and capitals close to tie up the attackers while your fighters and bombers go out to deal with the carriers. The shipyard isn't holy enough to repair the holy light, but at least the plasma guns are working again, and not a moment too soon because the final wave of attack is here. More carriers, more hypergates, and the largest combat vessel in the game. Armed with 8 fusion missile silos and a spinal-mounted Trinity cannon, it's hard to aim, but deals fuck tons of damage if it connects. It even comes with its own hangar bay for docking and repairing strike craft, so its escorts don't have to run back to the mothership. There's just one foible in its design, or 2 rather. The missile batteries can be targeted and disabled, while knocking out its engines will prevent it from aiming its Trinity cannon, so a few squads of bombers is all it takes to render the ship completely helpless in combat until the auto repair kicks in, more than time enough for the enemy to finish it off.
Attention fleet, McGuffin has found Valcora Gate. The coordinates are 1134489er0. Priority alert, jamming signal detected. A Vaygr carrier is on an intercept course with Captain Soban.
Something's wrong. We've been pulled out of hyperspace.
Massive anomaly detected.
Oh look, Jamar is back.
Trans.
And he brought a friend. Joy. These Jamars don't hit as hard as the first, but they can take a lot more punishment, so focus all of your fire on one at a time or you won't be able to deal enough damage to rout them before they destroy something important. And don't neglect to deal with the drones either, because they will melt through your frigates in a hurry. Ventus has some holy light to spare. They can get our McGuffin number 5 up and running. Oh shit. Have all of your ships focus fire on one Jamar at a time, ideally the closest one to you at the moment. As soon as it hyperspaces or vanishes, target the next closest one. You'll notice that the Jamars get progressively tougher each time we rout them. There's nothing we can do to mitigate this. If you're lucky, they'll get distracted firing at your corvettes until you rout them. Once they make up their mind on the target, they never stop attacking until you force them to. McGuffin number 5's holy light of Allah is functional again, but Jamar is really upset at us about the jar we put him in, and he isn't about to let something as trivial as God's divine judgment stop him from killing us. But it's okay, Deuce has an idea.
You must take our core and unite the three. This is our lesson to you.
So, Bentus is fucking dead, and it's up to us to scavenge his corpse for the 3 pieces of McGuffin number 3 and put them back together. Would have saved us a lot of time for him to give it to us before committing Sudoku, but okay. The far clouds surrounding the pieces prevent our resources from picking them up. The game expects us to build defense field frigates and use their ability to shield our resources from the far clouds. We do not need them. We will not use them. Instead, we'll let the Vaygr fetch them for us. The Vaygr are immune to the far clouds, so their resources can retrieve them without issue, and all we have to do is ambush them before they make it to the carrier, and the fragment will be ours for the taking. Unfortunately, that only works for the first fragment, since the Vaygr seem to be taking issue with their substandard compensation for their salvage work and have started loading their complaint letters into high explosive missiles and shooting them at us at high velocity, so we'll have to send an HR to go negotiate with them. The enemy is packing several destroyers and a battlecruiser guarded by walls of assault frigates, so you might want to hold off on sending your bombers in. Have your capital fleet focus down the destroyers first, as their firepower can't be disabled with hardpoints, unlike the battlecruiser. Bring the McGuffin's holy light to bear against them and watch them melt. If your ships are taking too much fire, build some defense platforms and fling them into the enemy's face like pocket sand, diverting their attention away from your ships and buying them time to finish off the enemy. As for the McGuffin fragments, we'll have to get creative with moving them, and by get creative I of course mean ramming our carrier into them at full speed. They survived the epicenter of a nuclear explosion after all, they can handle a little bit of physics jank. I hope Captain Soban is still alive. Hope you enjoyed that little Progenitor vacation, because the easy part of the campaign is over. Captain Soban is being held in this station and guarded by well over half a dozen destroyers, at least 2 battlecruisers, and complements of fighters, corvettes, and frigates to assist. A good chunk of these ships belong to Pecan's personal backup dancers, and as such, are significantly tougher and stronger than normal. We're well past the point of being able to brute force our way through. the opposition is packing more super capitals than us, so in a straight up shootout, even with the best micro in the world, they will inflict grievous casualties on our fleet and invalidate all the good work done by our marine frigates. Speaking of, they've just about outlived their usefulness. They've served us surprisingly well despite their myriad shortcomings, but with our super capital fleet close to completion, the only thing still have as targets are enemy frigates, and those aren't exactly necessary to capture anymore, what with the rest of our ships fulfilling all of our needs. There is one more important target for them to nab, however.
Crickets and cockroaches and sticks and stones and mud daubers and wasps.
No, not Pecan's flagship. The marine frigates may be inferior, but they do not deserve to be exposed to his unholy stench. I'm talking about this battlecruiser right here, which is equipped with a fire control tower that ups the damage of all nearby ships. This will act as a cherry on top of our now complete super capital fleet, as soon as we beat up Pecan and send his backup dancers to Pulsar Hell. Once you send the nut bar packing, the fight's pretty much over. Rough up the station a little bit, board it with your marines, and watch Soban book it to the mothership for debriefing, after which he joins you as a permanent addition to the fleet. Too bad there's nothing left for him to do besides stay by the mothership and get killed when I'm not looking. Pecan has absconded to McGuffin number 6, but before we can get there and finish roasting his nuts, he uses his own McGuffin number 5 to open up McGuffin number 6 and escape to the One Piece, while leaving behind a contingent of goons to poke holes in its batteries. Why exactly he would order them to do this when he needs the McGuffins that I hold to activate the One Piece and is in fact counting on me to follow him anyway is anyone's guess. The inner machinations of the British mind are an enigma. The only thing of note here is these two battlecruisers that are equipped with hyperspace modules, allowing them to jump in right on top of our forces. They could have been useful in the coming fight, but I'm already full on battlecruisers, so into the trash they go.
Bionicle presents the annual Bionicle Buffet, a 3-day event featuring an all-you-can-eat smorgasbord of pies and pastries and pizza and grilled salmon and mussel crabs and dumplings and cakes and sandwiches and protodermis and stuffed peppers and mutton and brisket and rusty nails and coins and disc launchers and meatballs and fresh squeezed lemonade and lithium batteries and cigarettes and fingernail clippings and deviled eggs and bicycle chains and cone snails and acorns and scorpions and cactus needles and rubber bands and pencil shavings and grilled salmon and egg rolls and spoiled yogurt and staples and witchetty grubs and paint chips and rotten cheese and battery acid.
The game is not at all happy about all the ships we've stolen, and its rage comes to a head here. Dozens of super capitals, a McGuffin number 5, more fighters, bombers, and corvettes than there are stars in the sky, and a wet Pecan are all that stand between us and the One Piece. There's only one way we can dismantle this abomination of a fleet. Slowly and carefully, and with lots of luck. You are entirely at the mercy of the AI in this mission, so we'll need to tread very carefully. Pecan opens the fight with a handful of destroyers backed up by strike craft and frigates. A non-issue for our fleet, of course, but this is merely an appetizer.
What part of Mandingo party do you not understand? It's time to pile on the white rat, you know, dirty the snow.
Our production ships are dead meat if they stay put, so we book it over to the left as fast as possible. The doomstack will lose interest and regroup underneath the One Piece. From here, we can try to destroy a few of Pecan's production ships to slow down the waves of strike craft that assault you constantly throughout this mission. But whenever we move in too close to them, the doomstack will be roused from its slumber, so we need something to keep them busy, and our pulsar gunships are perfect for that. Send them to harass the battlecruisers while your fighters stay behind and defend the fleet. We can't sack our capital ships just yet, we'll need them for the final mission, and the enemy ships have been buffed to the point where all of our destroyers are only 2 missile salvos away from death, so as soon as one gets targeted, we need to pull it out of combat and be healed up by our resources while another ship draws the enemy's attention. Then, pull the next targeted ship away while the rest continue to fire on the ship. Keep doing this task until the enemy ship in question is dead, rinse and repeat until every super capital ship has been annihilated. Once the doomstack is dead and gone, Pecan has nothing left to threaten us with. Whatever strike craft and defense platforms he has left can be swiftly mopped up by our fighters and gunships as our fleet trashes his carriers and shipyard. There can be only one pirate fleet in Pecan, and she does not share power.
This isn't looking good, fleet. Hold your position.
Ah, Commander. As you can see, our situation is shockingly grim.
The Queen of the Pirates has returned, and now she's back in heat. Split your fighter complement into 2 groups and move them to both sides of the map. We're going to be paying them a lot more attention. As for the rest of the fleet, they're free to engage and destroy the enemy as per usual. The Vaygr still have several destroyers, battlecruisers, and frigates backed up by a nasty complement of fighters and bombers, so this fight is going to be bloody. For the Vaygr.
Engage capital ship. Engage capital ship.
Group 4 reports victory.
Group 4.
The Vaygr have one last bundle of bullshit to throw at us. Or 3, rather. These planet killer platforms, remnants of the Bentusi's rebellious teenage years that the Vaygr fished out of their attic, are armed with low-orbit atmospheric deprivation warheads, the very same weapons used by the Titan in New Girl home on Karak. The planet killers will begin firing missiles towards this thin asteroid belt, where the missiles will then turn downwards and careen into Higara's atmosphere. Switch your attention to your 2 fighter groups frequently to check for any missiles getting close. The fighters won't attack them automatically, so you'll have to manually order them to kill each one. Don't get overzealous and get too close to the planet killers, or else you'll aggro the enemy and get distracted. The One Piece and our escorts should make quick work of the enemy's supercapitals, while your pulsars mop up the frigates. The missiles coming through center will take longer to reach your lines than the others, but don't let your guard down, especially not with all these fighters cluttering up your vision. And start building gunships to clear up that mess so you can see and target the missiles. And once the bulk of the fleet has been shredded, the One Piece will be all clear to hyperspace jump to each planet killer and cleanse them with holy light. And just like that, we've won. So, the Marine Frigate. How'd it do? Well, it's no junkyard dog, I can give it that at least. It is certainly a far cry from the glory days of the salvage corvette, but it still has its uses, although admittedly you have to go a lot farther out of your way to successfully capture and keep ships with it. Really, the detail that hurts it the most is not being able to go over the unit cap with its catches. I feel like if it could do that at least, then people would be more inclined to use it, but as it stands, the only incentive for stealing the Vaygr ships with this thing is to gain access to their more specialized hardware. But even then, said hardware doesn't benefit from any of your researchable upgrades, so it will inevitably fall behind in effectiveness and become deadweight as the ships built by you and your opponent alike ramp up in strength. If worst comes to worst, you could use them as a distraction to draw fire away from your fleet, but the Marine Frigate is arguably the worst ship in the game to fill the role of cannon fodder with due to its bulky price tag, second only to the Defense Field Frigate, and its build cap of a measly 4 ships. All in all, the Marine Frigate is a letdown, a failed experiment by Relic Entertainment and Sierra, but I don't see much point in hating the ship outright. It does its best with the gifts it was given, and it does have its moments to shine every once in a blue moon. Still, unless you have a chronic case of kleptomania like I do, you may be better off leaving this one in the dry dock.
You are all maggots! Oh, sorry, brain maggot, I forgot you were there.